Hi everyone. I'm afraid I had some technical difficulties because I'm probably the least technical person you'll meet. So I want to start off with a question, which is who here has worked with anybody who they consider to be difficult? Yes, I've worked with probably, after a while you wonder if it's you. So I worked in software development for 3 years, and first of all I worked in a company that wrote medical software, which is great because all my friends thought I did something like this. Which unfortunately wasn't true because it was more like you turn up at a GP surgery and you touch a screen and you sign yourself in and that sends a message, so it wasn't quite as glamorous as that. And the second company I worked for, I wrote aviation software, which again was great because my friends thought I did something like that. Unfortunately, it was actually analytics, so it was a little bit more like that. And now I work at Sky, so my friends think I do this, which is kind of true, but they let me take the costume off for this. So this isn't a talk about leadership. I'm not a leader in any sense of the word. I like to think I am, but unfortunately, apparently you need people to lead in order to be a leader. This is actually a talk about being a minion. So I've got lots of experience being a minion. I've been a minion for over 10 years now. Everything from mugging people in the street for money to working in a shop and getting a lot of random abuse from people, because that's what tends to happen, especially when I worked in a chocolate shop and I thought everyone would be happy, but they weren't. So I just want to take you on a little brief diversion. So we're primates. Primates are incredibly social. It's a really interesting field of study, and it's one of the fundamental evolutionary things about being a primate. This is where I need my speaker notes, sorry. So it's really important to be social, and it's really important for group behavior. It's advantageous because you get more access to mates, but then with more access to mates, you have more competition. You have more access to resources, like food, but then you have more competition for food, and you have kind of better protection from predators because you've got, like meerkats, you've got a group. So the downside of that is then it's really important to know who in your group is doing what and what the relationships in the group are. So in terms of humans, 2/3 of our conversation in casual settings is matters of social import, like who's doing what. And that tends to be one of the most important things about being human, about these relationships. So we're not so far from the chimpanzee, maybe about 10 million years from the last common ancestor, and we're still concerned with who's doing what. And we've just replaced grooming with talking. So my story is, from all of these evolutionary changes, we come to language, and we come to a week writing unit tests, and then 3 days out of the office, somewhere nice and sunny. I thought everything would be fine. It was going to be good. I was relaxing, and then someone did this. So I was naturally a little bit unhappy. And what do you say to that person? So I had a brief look on Google, and I didn't really find anything that helped me actually say anything. So this is all the theory, like minimize time spent with the person, but you work maybe opposite them and they've broken all your stuff, so you can't really get away. Don't try to explain yourself. I don't really think I have anything to explain. I just went on holiday. I think that's okay. Maybe it wasn't. I obviously didn't leave enough safeguards in place. And Taylor Swift, obviously. So I'm not really sure how helpful that is. And in the reality is that you tend to feel a little bit more like that. And not really have time to think about the theory. So here are some options. So option 1, keep quiet. Fix the test yourself and harbour maybe a slightly unhealthy passive-aggressive resentment, which a lot of people seem to employ. Option 2, just get over it. They're just unit tests. Maybe fix them yourself and just chill out. But they're not just unit tests, okay? These tests represent respect, quality of work, and everything you care about. So this is option 3. alpha primate stare. So you go up to the person, face void of expression, and you just stare. And if they say, "What are you doing?" you just go, "You know what you did." And then you walk away. The only problem with the alpha primate stare is that it only really tends to be effective if you're willing to follow through and actually have that physical fight. And I'm kind of not really there yet. So obviously your leader, you hope, would be the person policing this. And this is an excellent book for anyone who's in management or is interested. It's just a brilliant book. So a good leader creates a culture that simply refuses to tolerate certain negative behaviors. And then your culture becomes self-selecting and you don't employ people who aren't like the culture that you've put in place, and everything works perfectly. But unfortunately, the reality of being a leader is that you don't often have time to deal with the really petty things because you have 1,000 other things to do. So part of being a good developer and a good team member generally is dealing with it yourself when it's this small scale. Because unfortunately, the reality of being in a team is something more like this. So you've got to deal with it yourself, hopefully in a way that meaningfully resolves the situation. So this is the first scenario, and during this I'd really appreciate it if you could think of any situations that are similar for yourself, so we can have some audience participation and hopefully quite a kind of cathartic experience with everybody getting things off their chest. So I like to the advice I'd like to give you is a preemptive strike. So it really helps you to deal with this situation if you haven't gone around breaking unit tests yourself, for example. So there's a really good TED talk on effective communication, which I think is quite good when you're kind of in the I hate you moment, and it gives you a chance to step back and think about how you're going to deal with it. So I recommend this TED talk for anyone. So for example, if you spend a lot of time gossiping, it doesn't give you a lot of credibility when you come to talk to someone about what they've done, because they might not really take you seriously. So in a programming and software sense, I'd say don't make it personal is the first bit of advice. Because if I'm always complaining about this guy, and we'll call him Paul, when I actually go to talk to him, it might not look like I'm talking to him because of this particular problem. It might be just because I hate him generally. So it always helps not to make it personal, I think. I don't hate him, by the way. Put things in context. There might be something bigger going on. He might have been told to break the tests. You have to find that kind of thing out. And be realistic. Maybe all of my unit tests weren't the right tool for the job. Maybe I needed acceptance tests or integration tests. Maybe all of my unit tests made it impossible for anyone to make a small code change without breaking them. Check your communication. Are you actually talking? Are you talking about what you're doing? Does everyone on your team know what you're doing? Did he know I was going on holiday? Did he know I'd be back in a few days? Did he think he had to do something himself without talking to me about it? So that's the preemptive strike, and hopefully we'll feel like this, and he'll be just as protective about the unit test as I am. And if that goes wrong, here's how to make it worse. First of all, start with an accusation, like, you broke my stuff. I think that's fairly self-explanatory. Secondly, be patronizing. That's always a good one. And then thirdly, just completely ignore it. Because it will probably happen again. So here are some suggestions. So pick your time and place, not in front of everyone, not by email. There's a really good point in the keynote talk about how easy it is to read emails wrong. Give them a chance to explain. So if I started going, oh, I noticed that you broke all my stuff, then it gives him an opening to say, actually, something really important was going on. We need to push a release out. Be honest. I always think this helps, and I think as developers we're really good at going, oh, okay, that's fine. Whereas really I think sometimes to hammer in a point you need to say, I need you to not do that, or this is blocking me from doing this. And know when to move on. So he's only broken a few tests, and it's the first time, and maybe I'm taking this too seriously. So that's the first scenario. Has anybody encountered that? Do you want to tell your story?
Well, we noticed that someone switched off the
What did you do about it?
Well, we basically talked about it, trying to resolve it calm. No one wanted to admit to really switch it off. And
So you'd never found the culprit?
I think we knew, but I think it was okay. I think the person realized that they made mistakes and they need to make up mistakes.
Anyone else? I know there was another hand, but maybe they're shy now.
I would talk to the person that asked to report it. I would basically just get these steps working and then we can.
I think that's a really good point, and I think it's really easy in teams sometimes when someone's behaving badly just to completely ignore the bad behaviour. So I think that's a very good point. So my second scenario is someone who just completely drains you of your energy. So we had somebody in my previous job, 2 jobs ago, I think now. We had a project, and all the analysis had been done a year ago, so it was all stale. We didn't have any user stories. We just had a document, and it was all based off third-party software. We were just supposed to replace it. And so we knew this, and we were kind of trying to make the best of it. And every time we brought it up, he liked to complain about it. So we had the same conversation over and over and over again. So how to make that situation worse, I think, is to ignore them. It doesn't help. You can't do it forever. It's nice for a while, but they'll just find someone else to talk to. Put them down. So my suggestions here is to listen and try and turn it into something useful. So there's another TED Talk, which I think is really good, by Talia Sharrett about the optimism bias. So who here thinks they're in the top 25% of their job role? Like if you're a mid-level developer or a junior developer or a senior developer or an architect. So who thinks in the top 25%? Maybe it's just me. Maybe you're all pessimists. No? All right, who thinks they're in the top 25% of drivers? Who thinks they're a good driver? Anyone else? This is clearly not going to work. But you were supposed to all raise your hands, and then I could kind of be a smart ass and say that. So the other type of negative person is someone who's just negative about everything. Like, how are you doing? Terrible. How would you rate your weekend? 4 out of 10. Everything's 4 out of 10. It's bad all the time. So these are my suggestions. How to make it worse is to pay attention. And how to deal with it, I think, is probably just to walk away. So that's the second situation. Does anyone have any stories? Or
So we have this external consultant in doing a really useful program of work. And we have this one thing, and we're talking about composition versus inheritance of personalities. And this guy in the group spent about an hour sitting there going, I know what inheritance is, I know what composition is, why are you telling me this? And every conversation devolves back into repeating that you already knew this and wasting his time doing it. And it was incredibly frustrating for everyone who wanted to hear what this guy had done and was great to say. I did end up asking him to stop saying crumbling, which might not be the best way to handle it.
did it work?
Not really.
Oh. So the third scenario is breaking the build. So things have got a little bit worse after the unit tests, and everything's getting a bit difficult, and all of the kind of feelings of anger are coming back. So how to make it worse, I'd say, is accept the way this is being accept that this is the way that the project is being run. So we had somebody who started to almost systematically break things, which became really difficult for the rest of the team because it was blocking us. So from the first scenario, I said, maybe pick your time and place somewhere private, give them a chance to explain, be honest and know when to move on. Whereas here I'd say, maybe this is when you kind of take it to the team and you say in the stand-up, I noticed that we keep breaking the build. Probably don't go, Paul. Be honest, that's not how you're going to deal with it as a team, and know when to move on. So in this case, I'd say it shouldn't be you having to deal with one problem person. It should hopefully be a cohesive team coming together. And if, unfortunately, you need to guide the team because it's not happening for any other reason, that's how I suggest you do it. So I was going to briefly talk about body language here, but I don't think it was covered really well in the keynote talk, so I'm going to brush over it. So that was the third one, breaking the build. Does anyone have any contributions?
I think we had sort of one particular developer that sort of made, I guess, functional changes and sort of inherited bits of that, and not so much broke the build, but more, I think, broke a large part of the functionality. The difficulty was they weren't around to sort of address that, so a whole bunch of us had to come together and sort of work up the layout and work out what the problem was and try and reverse engineer it. So I think the trouble that we had was that sort of negativity about us waiting for sort of the person to get back to sort of go, oh, what can we do? But I think the way that we dealt with that was sort of just to wait until sort of they got that sorted and helped out, and then we left it like about a week, maybe a little bit longer, and then at sort of the next natural point, like a stand up or something, like sit down and say, okay, just rather than say we did this, just actually say this happened, can you explain, what the person was like? You were saying earlier on, rather than going and saying we did this, more couch the situation and say, well, look, this is obviously what happened. What can we do to make sure it doesn't happen again? So we can change the process or the way we do it.
Did it sort things out?
I think so, yeah, but we'll find out in the next week.
All right, well, fingers crossed. So unfortunately, for our team, this person's behaviour actually got worse, and they became a bit of a terrorist. So the kind of situation where you go, okay, let's make a design decision. So we all sat down and decided we were going to do things. We were doing things in two different ways, and we decided we were going to do it like the first way, and we agreed it with everyone. We agreed it with the technical lead, who had much better things probably to do. But we sat down, we sorted it all out. And the next time he committed it the other way. So this is kind of like speculative fixing as well. So I don't know if anyone saw the Ignite talk that I gave last night. I'm sorry because I'm reusing a few slides. But this is a fictionalized version of our release spreadsheet. So it began fairly innocently and got slightly worse each time. Sorry. I mean, the names got slightly more ridiculous after that. So as a team, we weren't really handling it. So the context here really was that we were under really, really immense pressure to push this product out. So to be fair to this person, we were all at this point behaving slightly badly from a coding perspective, although he was responsible for this. Can anyone read that? Can everyone read that? Okay, it says Christmas hack in capital letters in the comment, which I don't really think is a good thing to put in code. If you have to write Christmas hack and you have to explain yourself, you're probably doing something very, very wrong. So this is where I think you do take it to your very busy manager and beg for help. And this is where I think it stops being about you as a Minion and more about you protecting your project. So this is what I did. And it was actually really good because we could sit together and I could see what he was doing and he could understand where I was coming from. And it gave me a little bit of humility. I had a chance to talk to him. I could be realistic, so we were under a lot of pressure. It stopped me making things personal. I also, now I was pairing up with him, was responsible for breaking the build myself as well. So it gave me a really good perspective. So that's the coding terrorist. Anybody have any terrorism stories?
Less actually having to deal with the person involved because I inherited older systems. But just going back to the sort of Christmas hack there, some of the systems inherited in the past just had so many messages sort of hidden away
this is a hack for this, this is a hack for that. And yeah, I think in that case it was difficult because we were dealing with a lot of contract work. So this is someone that had come in, built the system, put in loads of hacks, and then left. So that created quite a situation as well. And there you haven't really got anywhere to deal with it. You just have to sort of deal with the problem and move on. So it can create some frustration, especially not having any ability to sort of talk through any issues as well.
Yeah. We had, after this particular person left, all of our Oracle database passwords expired, and the system DBA password was wrong. So that was a fun day. So finally, my last scenario. Oh, so ideally we'd be friends, but it didn't really happen. So the final scenario is the person who really doesn't care anymore. So I'd just like to show you a short YouTube video. Oops, if the sound works. I'll try it. I apologize if you've seen it before, but I think it sums things up quite well. Any sound? Okay. Sorry, everyone. So I'll just improvise here. So this is someone going, "No, kitty, no." Don't do it. So that's your person who's left you all the surprises. And I'm not really sure there's much you can do in that situation, apart from hope that you never have to work with them again. So that's it. I'm sorry that was shorter than it was intended to be. So I suppose my summary here is that I think you need to take a lot of responsibility as an individual and a team, but I also think there are some situations where it's beyond you and you need to kind of push it out and get help from everyone. And in the end, sometimes people are beyond redemption and you just need to really hope that you don't encounter them. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be here. Otherwise, thank you very much.